How many of you have ever heard somebody say, and they're talking about somebody, maybe they need to get sober, maybe they need to get healthy, maybe they need to make better grades, maybe they need to work on their marriage, maybe their career, and they're kind of not doing it, and they're stuck, and somebody will try to help them, and then they get frustrated and they throw up their arms and they say something like this. Well, if they wanted it bad enough, they would do it. They just don't want it bad enough. What they're talking about there, want to, that's something called motivation. Motivation. Think about that. Motion, movement. It's moving forward, and we got to have some sort of we want to move forward, right? And here's a common misconception that highly motivated people equals successful performance. Now, it's true that motivation is quite a fuel and it's very, very helpful. And we need motivation. You know, depressed people have no motivation. They have something called anhedonia, where they don't even have an appetite for anything good. You know, one of my favorite verses in Proverbs is that it's a worker's hunger that drives them. And so that's a motivation. We want something and, you know, we're going to go get it. But did you know that when they do the research on goals, because we think motivation is the most powerful driver in the accomplishment of a goal. Actually, that's not true. In fact, motivation can be inversely correlated with goal achievement, meaning that some of the most highly motivated people are the ones that accomplish sometimes less of what they're trying to accomplish. Now, how can that be? One of the secrets is found in one of my favorite verses. You know what it says? It says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire accomplished becomes a tree of life. In other words, when things happen, it feeds us and we got all sorts of good feelings inside and blah, blah, blah. But that longing, that desire, and the hope, I want to do this. I want to make it. I want to get healthy. I want to keep my New Year's resolution, all that kind of stuff. Deferred, what happens? We get depressed and we languish and we don't get there. And that's how you get the inverse correlation. Why? Because we really wanted it so bad. Some of the most depressed people are the ones that want to accomplish something so bad, but they don't have the skills or the process or the ability to pull it off. They want to lose 50 pounds, so they want to turn their career around, but they're lacking the ability to do it. And that very motivation and desire is what actually can derail you. So here's what we know from research. You can't depend on motivation to be the main way you're going to get there, because the other thing we know is motivation wanes. It goes up and down. Some mornings you get up and wake up, I want to go attack the world. Sometimes, you know, it's good morning, Lord. And other mornings it's good Lord morning. I mean, I just went, there's no motivation. You don't want to do it. The motivation is, like almost flatlining. So we can't depend on it. Now, in the big picture, we're going to do some things, you know, obviously to keep the fires stoked. But here's what I want you to understand first. It's great. And you need motivation. We need vision. We need inspiration. We need to get, you know, get things firing. But it's not the number one factor whether or not you're going to accomplish it. The number one factor on whether or not goals are accomplished is the belief that it can be done. See, what happens is things that we believe are possible, we're actually going to have way more tendency to take a step than if we have doubts and I don't know, or no, that's impossible, or success is for other people, or being skinny is for other people and not me. We don't even think it can be done. And yet, once we really believe it can be done, even outside of me. I mean, I always say when I talk about goals, look, if you're not, Elon trying to colonize Mars or something, probably most of our goals, it's been done before. So we can get over the belief that this is possible pretty quickly by just noticing, listen to Dave Ramsey. There are people every day that have gotten out of more debt than you're in. It is possible for it to be done. So we need to really know, look, this is possible. It's just I've got to learn how it gets done. And then the second factor, and neither one of these are what I want to talk about. We're talking about motivation, but the second big factor is the prioritization of the actual activities that move the needle. So if I want to lose weight or I want to get, there are activities. Your scales can't be your method. Everybody. Some people use the scoreboard as like that's their method. What I'm going to do? I'm going to weigh in every week. Well, that's too late. That's a lagging indicator. What is better is outlining the activities that I've got to do each day that are going to end up with a scale saying something different on Saturday night. But having those activities and then getting around to them when we get around to them, that doesn't do it either because they get pushed out and conflicted with and all sorts of, incompatible wishes and blah, blah, blah. They've got to be prioritization. Prior means before. They've got to get a time and place in the schedule that they get done first. Okay. And when those activities are the right activities that move the needle and they take priority, needles move. And what happens to motivation along the way is movement creates more motivation once we get going and once we get moving. So we can't just depend on motivation. That's what I'm trying to say today. Now, the second thing about this is we can get motivation that we don't have by internalizing it through our most significant and powerful what? Attachments. Okay. We draw life from outside of ourselves. And who we're connected to, the people around us. That's why people have a sponsor in AA. It's why people have therapists. It's why you have coaches. It's why you have a buddy system when you're going to go work on something, because you've got to look at, sometimes that motivation's got to not going to be there. Somebody's going to drag me by the collar and say, come on, you're going, whether you feel like it or not. And that's really, really important as well. And let me tell you two more things about motivation. There is a very predictable curve for motivation. This is how smart business people make gazillions because they understand this curve and they sign up a lot of people on January 1st for their New Year's resolution to come to the gym. And 1 million people sign up. And they use all that money to buy all their equipment. It's going to service about 25 people. Because by February, those are the 25 of the million that are come. Now, the numbers are off, but you get the idea. Why? Because motivation wanes. And there's a predictable habit pattern that hasn't gotten established that the motivation wave can keep going for a few weeks, but then it starts to die. And if we don't have the predictable way to ride out the dip and the curve, that's, what we'll do is we default back to the neurological patterns and wiring of our old ways because the new stuff hasn't been built. So we're going to go into more of this on different broadcasts about how, new patterns are formed and we get through all that. But I just wanted to ask you to ask yourself, have I been depending on wanting to do something to power me to get there? I want you to stoke the fires of your motivation. I said our attachments. The other ways are inspirational stories and models. I love to listen to inspirational stories of how people did very hard things. And it's great to hear inspirational messages and motivational speakers, right? We need that. So along the way, it's good to listen to those podcasts and to, That's what, the crowd does for the team. They're up there cheering. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. That's what a trainer does in the gym. You know, give me two more. No, I can't. Yes, you can. So sometimes you got to go outside yourself to get the motivation that you don't have. What does the Bible say? It says to encourage one another. Where does courage come from? Well, sometimes we summon it up if we got it, but if you don't have it, it's got to be put into us. Encourage. So put some people around you to help keep your motivation going when it derails. There's a bunch of other stuff on this that we talked about on the goals courses. If you go to boundaries.me, there's several full length courses on this that's going to unpack it and give you a path to do it. But I just want you to look at, am I waiting on wanting to do something before I do it? Or is this so important in my life, whether I want to or not? I got to prioritize it. And then I got to find enough, forces to move me against gravity to take the first step. Important to think about.